Hey guys, all right. Rex Ambassador again today. Using it a lot lately. I don't know that I'm going to keep it. If I didn't have any other razors, I'd definitely be happy with it. But I just have others that I just like better. That's a weird sound. Well, checked it out. Didn't seem to be anything. Maybe the cat's getting into something. All right. I was saying about the Rex Ambassador. It just seems to be a little bit more finicky with some blades. Probably just the head design and stuff. There are just others, just a lot of the razors that aren't quite as finicky. Like the face feel and stuff. I've definitely found a couple blades that really work well with it, but not all of them. And all of them do work to some degree, but some of them still have kind of a tricky feel to them, a touchiness that maybe is where I'm right on the edge of maybe nicking myself or something like that. It doesn't really inspire confidence, and so that's my main gripe about it. The blade we're going to put in it today is another one of my favorites, definitely among my top. The Gillette Silver Blue, and this is a brand new one. Haven't even opened it yet. I had another one that I was using, but I lost the paper, fell into the toilet, so it had to get thrown away. And then I just had it up on my shelf, and I guess it was touching something else metal, and maybe it got moist. And so then I saw where a piece of the blade edge had been dulled or weakened in some way, so I chucked it. So we will keep the paper around this time. This will be use number 1. The soap today, Pasha's Pride. This is the Bufala base. It's got water buffalo milk in it, as you can see, in addition to donkey milk, whey, shea butter, lanolin, and hops extract. And I really have enjoyed this base. This may be one of my favorite scents, Pasha's Pride from Holy Cow. And I have checked, and that is how you pronounce that very odd spelling. Just a normal looking soap. This one's been flattened out by the previous owner. I've used this at least once. Man, that's good. Kind of a cologne-y, musky, leathery, oud, I don't know, like scent. Really good. So let's go ahead and put this blade in the razor. With the Ambassador, you just remove the top cap like that, long bolt on that. Those rails there in the middle keep the blade in perfect alignment. I only grip by the sides like this, so I never will dull the razor blade's edges by my own fingers. Actually, you know what? The edge of that one looks like it might have a little bit of that waxy residue from the envelope. I bet it'll be all right. All right. I'm going to loosen it up just a touch. I'm going to put it on the 2 setting. One of the things I discovered that I may not necessarily like about this razor is that the base plate here, and just since we're looking at that, this is the N series, and it does matter because the razor blade, the razors that were before that were kind of different and had some quirks. This flat base plate has on top of it this flat part here, and then that part goes under the blade straight back this way, and then around the side again here. And they're so close together when you're at a mild setting, those 2 plates. And I'm afraid that water eventually is gonna, this is a stainless steel razor, so it should last a long time, but even stainless steel will rust. So I have a little mental thing where I always increase the gap to the greatest amount, which is over 6 approximately, and I blow through it. Maybe that's all one needs to do to keep this thing in forever shape. But to have those 2 big flat surfaces so close to each other all the time, you know. All right. So we're going to turn, yep, we're on a 2. We're going to tighten it down. So the Gillette Silver Blue is in on a 2. The brush we're going to use today is this Semogue Owners Club. It's got a little bit less than 30 uses on it, so it's not super broken in yet. It's one that I have broken in myself just by using it. And it didn't take, but I don't know, 8 shaves or something before it got to be a very enjoyable Boar brush. In case you don't know, Boars have to be broken in usually. Some only take a few days, some take a few weeks, some take a few months. It's just, you know, I've got an Omega that looks like it's in the few months category. My Sterling Badger that I have, nice, inexpensive, really dense, sorry, I said Badger, I meant Boar. Really dense Boar brush, great little handle, that little hourglass handle they have. Inexpensive. It looks like it's also going to take a while. A couple of the Semogues I've had have been on the 14-day, you know, spectrum. I think my 830 from them was that first one that did that. And I tell you what, while it's breaking in, it's so frustrating if you don't know that Boars break in like that. And what I basically did was I took my puck of soap, and before each pass, I would have to load up with soap again. And that's normal for break-in on a lot of brushes. Okay, and eventually you'll get to the point where the bristles start to separate and widen out. A little bit more space between the bristles at a microscopic level means more space for lather, and then you don't have to go back to the puck as often. And then also you're looking for tips to be split. That's the other thing. You're looking for the bloom to open up. You're also looking for the tips to split, and that usually happens during the drying process. So if you can, let a whole day, a whole use go by between using your Boar. Like maybe if you're I think Boars are an excellent investment if you are a person who needs to shave inexpensively, very inexpensively. Boars are a great way to go. I know a couple of $20 Boars, like the 2000. Maybe the 1800, the 1305 especially. The 2000 and the 1305 might be my 2 favorites. I probably like the 2000 a little bit better than the Semogue Owners Club. I did have to throttle it down. I think the bloom would have been too big. I put a couple of O-rings at the base of it to restrict the bloom just a little bit because it was really opening up out there. And as you can see, I have a narrow tract of land to shave. I probably wouldn't have restricted the bloom with those O-rings if I would have had a bare chin and mustache area, because then the whole thing could have just gone everywhere. And so there's a couple of inexpensive Boars that you can have, and then what you do is you use one, and then the next day it dries when you use the other, while you use the other one. And then the next day that one you use just dries, and then you switch. And by tag teaming it that way, you help those tips to split, because you really help to promote a good drying effect. All right, now the good news is, because I do check on whatever that noise was, and I've been talking for a few minutes, I feel really good about the amount of time this Boar has had to soak. One little, I've got 7 Boar brushes that I'm bringing up all at the same time. Zenith, Semogues, Omegas, and that Sterling that I mentioned. And it's really fun to watch them grow all at the same usage level, but they're very different rates of softness and firmness and all that stuff. Once they get in uses high enough to this Semogue Owners Club, since I got it before I started doing that Boar-a-thon a while back, I may bring this SOC into that grouping because I think it might be interesting to compare it to some of the others, especially the Zenith that I've got in that group, because they both kind of have similar softness and blooms, and it would be neat to compare them. But I just felt like I've been using Badgers lately. I felt like bringing in a Boar. And so I really like the Owners Club. Let's give it a shot. Water on my face. Cold water these days, for sure, because it is winter. Fall, but it's a cold fall so far. And so I do plan on bringing in some warm water just to soften it a bit. If my face is too cold from chilling water rinses, I don't get a good sensation about how the brush is feeling on my face. And I want to relay accurate information to you. So I do plan on kind of bringing it up to tepid level. All right, the razor's ready to go. I think we'll do a 30-second load just because I can't remember the right info for this soap. So I had a nice good several minute soak, probably 10 minutes really. I'm going to shake most of the water out. And then we'll do a 30-second load. And 30 is going to roll around right here in one more second. Now, 20 seconds is probably a better option since this is a Boar brush. It's a little stiffer. However, it doesn't have as many bristles as the Badgers I've been using lately. So let's just stick with the 30 seconds and just see what happens. Surely it won't need more than that. And I don't mind having an extra pass or two of lather. Oh, that scent is coming up to my nose. That is a masculine, enjoyable scent, especially suited for colder weather. I mean, I could wear it year round. So here is 30 seconds of loading, and we still got some water in there. You can see it kind of dripping out. Rinse out. I'm going to rinse out now the threads of this tub of soap so that they stay clean. Otherwise your lids can jam up. It's just a little preference of mine. And I'll set this aside. It's a big question that's posed a lot. Do you leave your, not to me, but just generally to the shaving community across different forums, how do you store your soaps between uses? Do people just cap them up right now being a little moist? Do they just leave them open all the time? If you do leave them open all the time, you're at risk of letting the scent diminish. It'll just wear itself out. If you cap it up right away, you might run the risk of that water kind of forming maybe a little bit of mold, is the claim of some people. I've never really had that happen. I don't really believe that the soap here is, unless there's been some manufacturing error, it's not going to be very hospitable area environment for mold. And so it's really hard, in my opinion, to get mold to grow on this stuff. And so what I do is kind of a hybrid. In the shaves that I usually do with a video, it's usually about maybe 40 minutes from the 30 minutes probably from when I load, and then when my shave is done. And so I kind of let that be my evaporating time. And then at the end of that, I'll seal it up, put it away. All right. Hard water here, as usual. Roger Quintero lather bowl. Got this lip here that keeps that lather folding in on itself usually. At the very least, when I go to get it from the edge, it doesn't flop over the other side. I can feel the backbone of this Boar brush here, but it'll get nicer as it fills with lather. I'm going to spin the bowl around. This has a little cutout right there to put your brushes, and if I put that on the bottom as I have it tilted here, then obviously that's a place where the lather can spill over. So why am I using this soap today? I've got milk steak from Declaration Grooming that I kind of want to do a usage test on. I've got some really cool samples from Sterling of the mutton tallow base that I want to bring to you and try myself. Let me tilt the camera down just a little bit so it'd be easier for you to see the bowl instead of my forehead. I've got another sample of Zingari Man, their tallow base, which I really like the vegan a lot. I've got a new soap. The scent is Sandalwood and Laurel, and it is one I bought at a well, I heard that sound again, went and checked it out. I kind of figured out what it was. It was the dryer, unbalanced load, that sort of thing. So good to know what that is. It's re-watering and trying to rebalance itself. So we may hear it one more time. I don't know how many times it'll do it before it quits. So with all this good stuff to try, even though this is a really enjoyable scent of mine, why am I bringing in something out of the blue? Because This Rex razor has a pretty big contact patch on your skin. Because of this safety bar here is kind of tilted and it's kind of pointy. And then you've got the top cap, similar to maybe a Blackland Blackbird or a Fine Marvel, Fine Accoutrements Marvel razor. And with the Zingari Man vegan base, I was getting some razor drag. Not tons, but it might cause some people an issue of maybe beefing about it, complaining. And then it occurred to me, this Zingari Man feels so good on my face. It leaves my face really, this vegan base, well conditioned and moisturized. And it hit me that maybe a well moisturized face, one that's got oils and fats and things from the lather that have now kind of merged with the surface of my skin to help it out. Maybe these things are increasing the drag. And so I then postulated, what about other bases? This is a new trend now. Noble Otter, Barrister and Mann, Holy Cow, Declaration Grooming. A lot of these makers are focusing on post-shave feel. So what if they're moisturizing my skin so much that it's increasing the drag on not all razors, because not all of them have this type of contact point, contact surface, but just a few razors. What if that's affecting them? And what if that's a predictable pattern that maybe it would be good for people to know about? So that is why I have the Bufala base in my bowl right now. I tried the Zingari Man Veg base. The Seafarer was the scent. I liked it. It wasn't a strong scent, but it's still enjoyable. And the lather was tremendous. Felt so good. They're a relatively new maker to the market, and that base is terrific. If there's a way for you to get a sample, I would encourage it. And no, I'm not related to that company in any way. Heather, I think, is the girl who runs it, and I only know that because she did a recent kind of weekend ask me questions thing on Reddit. Let's see, how's this base feeling? Not a lot of cushion, so I bet we should stop adding water. I'm glad I went for the 30 seconds because I do not have an excess of soap. Let me mix for just a little while longer, make sure I get it nice and hydrated, nice and just a good mix where we don't have any wet or dry spots, that sort of thing. So the question is going to be during this shave, this is a very moisturizing lather, very moisturizing soap. Does it cause similar drag with the Rex? I'll find out. The milk steak is what I used yesterday. It's another one that's very nourishing to your face, but it did not have any drag. So far, there's no pattern, just with the Zingari Man. I don't think there's anything wrong with the Zingari Man lather. It's just that for me, it was a little bit of drag. I wetted the lather down a lot and the drag was reduced somewhat. But I've got tons of other razors, and so next time I use that base, I just pick another razor other than the Rex. All right, got my face wet. Got a brush full of lather. Definitely not a scritchy brush or scratchy. It's soft. And it'll get even softer as more and more of the tips split. Look how this is thinning out. Sometimes you'll see this happen. Some brushes just kind of do this. Some lathers do this. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to load it. There's a couple ways you can go from here. I could load up, go back to the tub and get some more soap Maybe for this base I should have loaded a little bit more with this brush. Well, the good news is, people who may wonder about the validity of my theory can't say that I didn't have a wet enough lather. Okay, just for grins, I'm going to go and put a little bit more soap on here. So this will thicken up what is already on my face. Just working it in a little bit more. It's not a high backbone brush. I don't really think it's too floppy. Some people might. I don't think so. Now this is why, and this may be why some people might say it's floppy. When I'm doing my rotation up here, see, it doesn't have the strength of backbone to kind of keep the bristles kind of open. And so once I get to the top, it keeps them folded back. There we go. This is a better lather. Switching to kind of painting mode now. Very good. And I'll go ahead and kind of mix this around in my bowl. Well, yeah, it looks like I just didn't load enough. This brush, I guess, and this soap base needs me to load a little bit more. I'll take the excess. This is a non-shave area down here. I don't want to forget about that and shave on it, so I like to take the lather off. Get irritation right there. So I believe we're still set at a 2. Yep, we are. I don't feel like with this kind of test, I don't want to go to a 1 because it may be, it'll adjust the geometry, and I want to keep that same to maybe keep the drag the same if it's going to exist. So we'll see if Bufala will generate any drag for me. Now I think in the beginning, first pass, the stubble of 1 day is actually going to make the first pass not going to drag very much. So we need to wait until the second or third before we start perceiving or looking for drag. I mean, it may pop up on the first, but it hasn't yet. It's going pretty well. I mean, I do feel a little bit, but sometimes you feel a little on the first just because you're also cutting through a bunch of hairs. Rinse. All right, first pass is down, and yeah, I've pretty much used up the lather in my bowl here. There's not much left. Fortunately, the second and third passes usually don't require as much. If I need a little bit more, I can easily go to the puck like I did on the first pass. And matter of fact, why don't we do that? Just a little bit extra. Bring that to my face, work it in. This is what face lathering folks have to do on kind of a regular basis. And why I don't like scritchy brushes, because when you have to work your face so much, you can generate brush burn, kind of irritation, by having to work your face so much. If you have sensitive skin, a a bowl might be a better option so that you can work the bowl and get your lather where you want and to the amount that you want without having to work on your face with it. All right, that first, you know, we're also, in addition to looking for drag, we are also evaluating the Gillette Silver Blue. If you have a face and beard exactly like me, if you have a face like mine, exactly same hair type, all that, then this Gillette Silver Blue looks like it might be a decent blade for you and your Rex. Pretty comfortable. I don't have that edgy feeling that I was talking about earlier. However, I am feeling a little bit of drag. Not a lot, but a little bit. And when I wetted the Zingari Man down, it maybe almost came down to this level. So it might be comparable. The Bufala base. All right, third pass. And I can't imagine the lather is going to be any different. So let us go back to the puck for just a few swirls. And then, sorry everybody, we'll take this into the lather here. Thicken up the lather a little bit. All right, well, we pretty much used everything we had. And, you know, on the third pass, I don't really need to work the brush very much in the splay. Don't really even need to do it on the second. It's just kind of my habit because I choose soft brushes, and so the brushes are comfortable, and I like that feeling. And I'm also, I guess, in the habit of it because I was working on a sterling brush that I basically splayed every chance I got to try to get him to open up a little bit more. So I bet I could, you know, put together another pass with what was left on the brush there. But we pretty much used up what I had. Looks like 2.5 teaspoons of water is what I used. Just a little bit of drag on the face here. Almost, I think some people wouldn't even care. But if you just finished shaving with a brush that, I'm sorry, with a lather that treated you so well, and the razor moved along, you know, scooted along nicely, then you might notice it. But if this was your only razor, you might kind of get used to a little bit less movement or less speed. Because, yeah, I think it's probably going to happen for a few of your lathers. All right. Now it looks like my cut here is not all that awesome, so let's do a touch-up. I'm going to take a little bit of the lather I have there left and do, this is pretty common for me in a lot of cases, this kind of reverse cross grain, and my hope is that it does not cause irritation. Nope, that's just a little mole right there. All right, there we go. I'm going to rinse off and take a look at everything. I did get a reasonable shave. but I definitely see some length in a few, and there's just an overarching more darkness here than I usually like to see. So even though the Gillette Silver Blue is one of my favorites in so many razors, it looks like either I need to improve my technique with this particular razor. Maybe it requires a slight difference in angle or something like that. So it's an okay match for this one, seems. All right. Well, I told you about the water, 2.5 teaspoons there. I had maybe one pass left over. You know, I did have to go back to the puck before each pass. I could have helped that with maybe a 45-second load or a 50-second load perhaps with this brush. It's just not as big as a lot of the Badgers that I use, and so you can't expect it to pick up as much soap. And so that's why I usually try to, when I mention my load times, I tried in my descriptions and write-ups and stuff, I mention the brush that was used, like a dense Badger or, you know, that sort of thing. And hopefully that will help to make things more relevant. All right. So, all done. Gillette Silver Blue, one use. We'll set it over here on kind of my little drying towel. And as you can see, it's got those waxy dots. Some people have said that you can take some rubbing alcohol and a Q-tip and go at those and get rid of them. I might try that someday. And then here is that space between, yeah, there we go, between the two plates, and it's not very much. So I'm going to give that a puff, and then hopefully that will keep water from becoming a problem in those tight spaces. All right. Really enjoyed the scent. It was available during the shave. You'll have scent notes if you want to check those out, as well as obviously you can look for Pasha's Pride on the Holy Cow website. Still, I believe it's in current production. So a good shave. Face feels good. Let's put on a alcohol splash and we can kind of test that, right? I like Barrister and Mann Seville. It's a barbershop scent from them. They had it in their glissant base, and this is probably the splash that kind of went with that base. He does have kind of version names like Deltas or something like that for his splashes, because he does put in the mix more than just alcohol and fragrance. You got some cool things to help your skin. Let's see what we have on this one. It does have, of course, alcohol, witch hazel, water, matricarda flower extract, calendula, and there we go. So a few little skin goodies to help you out in addition to the scent. Barbershop is a genre I had to get used to because it wasn't distinctly masculine in terms of a leathery scent or anything like that. And often there's some flower and powder in there as well. And there are definitely some barbershops I stay away from because of those kind of elements. But when those are used, when even the notes that I don't like are used with other pieces to kind of be a symphony, then I can definitely come around to enjoy those, as long as those aren't dominant players. Felt a little tingle right there, but it didn't turn into a weeper. And you see, I had to go back and work this area a couple of times. I feel like maybe my lather, if it would have been thicker, it might have protected me a little better right here. And maybe it's just the Rex with the new blade. New blades sometimes come from the manufacturer with a microscopic little burr across the top. And some people even take a cork and will run the blade, each edge of the blade, over the corner of the cork just once, maybe twice, but usually just once, I think, to hopefully remove that burr. If you do it too many times, obviously you're going to dull your blade. But and that's called corking. I've never done that. I just use it a couple times, you know, that kind of thing. And so sometimes you'll get a little bit of an aggression and roughness from a blade that on that first or second use, but it'll be, that burr will wear itself away pretty shortly. And then often you'll get into this nice smooth zone that I really enjoy. All right, I'm going to clean up. Nice scent of Seville in the air. So this brush has widened out pretty good. I don't think that's a problem with this one. There are a few of the tips that have split. Maybe you can see a couple, but not a lot actually. And so this just needs some more uses before it gets that way. You definitely also will have little guys that relax a little bit more than others. You can trim those off if you want. I might usually wait. Now, if they're really dangling like down here, I'll cut them off. But if they're going to have other brothers coming to join them, then, you know, no sense in losing some bristles. Slung it out in the sink. Then it's dropped up and down on a towel to get it to this point. And no, it doesn't matter if you hang it this way or if you just sit it on its base. It will dry the same either way, because what I have just done was remove any of that excess water, any of the water that could be affected by gravity, by slinging it out, by running it on the towel. And so there's no gravity water in there. It's just the water that has been absorbed by the bristles, and that doesn't go anywhere based on gravity. We're talking capillary action, that sort of thing. So whether it's pointed up or pointed down, it's not going to matter. I might, if I had the room, I might have a brush stand just to point it down, just so that anything floating on the air, in the air, dust settling, that sort of thing, is going to get, won't get into the knot. But that's not really a big deal. Besides, if the next time you use it, you're cleaning it out anyway, so it's probably not a big deal. Yeah, that's Seville. I'm enjoying that. Not too much of an alcohol burn, so it looks like I had good technique on my face this time. All right, so even though there's some redness right here, and probably some tenderness if I wanted to touch it a lot, some of that could have been stirred up by the alcohol in the splash, but it doesn't really feel, doesn't really hurt, or give me any kind of, you know, negative sensation or anything like that. So that's cool. So good shave, you know, okay in terms of closeness. I definitely think most jobs, you know, would be happy with that level of closeness there. Obviously, if you're scrutinized more with more of a high-profile job, then this may not be a good combination for you. Maybe your skin would tolerate a more aggressive setting, and then perhaps get a closer shave. All right, well, there we go. So yes, while the milk steak by Declaration Grooming did not give me any drag feeling, the base here, Pasha's Pride, did, as well, some degree, as well as the Zingari Man. I'm going to see if I can find my Excelsior. I think I have an Excelsior soap to try out, and that's another one of the guys that's kind of focused on moisturization. See if we see a continuing pattern. All right, there. I shave with a lot of mind, with a lot of thinking and analyzing, and that's just my personality. Maybe that's not the way you do it, and that is fine. Just load for however long you feel like, throw it on your face, you know, just enjoy the feel. It can be that way for anybody. It can be Wild West, do whatever you want. It can be very structured. It can be anywhere in between. I hope you enjoy it. And thanks for watching. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves, and I hope that there's been something in this one that's helped you out. You take care. Bye.